Hello, Bengals. Welcome back to the Purr podcast. This is episode 9.
I think it's 8.
Oh, it's episode 8.
Or 9.
As you can tell, I'm here with Karah.
I'm Karah. I'm the managing editor.
And
at this point, I'm like basically the co-host.
Yeah, co-host, producer, managing editor. She does it all really here.
No, when I went over all my titles yesterday, I was like copy editor, managing editor, it's like entertainment editor or whatever, and like producer, editor, podcast, co-host. I was like, man, I'm overwhelmed just talking about it.
But anyways, today we're going to be discussing something Karah and I actually have written 2 articles about, which is literature, books.
Yay!
And so I think Karah and I are going to tell you a little bit about what we wrote, and we're going to incentivize you to go read our articles.
Yay! Okay, so my article is on just the importance of literature, especially throughout history. So, since the attention span has decreased, messages must be shorter and flashier. People went from reading articles and novels and started watching short-form videos or reading posts instead of reading, like, actual long, like, important information that has a lot of substance to it. And this is important because literature influences opinions, and without literature, opinions are formed by fear or popularity or money or whoever's in power. And so if history is made throughout literature, do we lose historical growth if we lose literature?
And then, so kind of for mine, then I kind of go into like the more modern side, I would say, and like kind of what Karah touched on about like TikTok and like the BookTok community that we have going on right now. And so basically the main thesis I would say of mine is that the BookTok community is taking away the art of reading and therefore like a culture. And because kind of like how Karah touched on that books are like how opinions are spread, and by opinions you learn about other people's way of life, and then you can grow and cause change. But when as BookTok is taking away the nuance and the like depth behind literature, we're losing a lot of that culture and that ability to read and understand people in like a deeper way. And so I think BookTok is really growing the lack of literary comprehension, and it's also like pandering to the need for constant dopamine that people have nowadays. And so that brings in a loss of meaning behind writing. And this doesn't just harm the next generation of, like, growing readers, but just harms, like, people today. And it's because, like, we're losing our attention spans, and so it's, like, perpetuating that.
Okay, so now we're going to switch, and we're going to rank romance tropes.
Because this is something, I touch on tropes in my article, and maybe you do in yours, but, like, I talk about, like, how BookTok is, like, everything's so tropey nowadays. And some tropes...
Very predictable.
Yeah, and some tropes just suck, and so we're gonna tell you guys which ones are good ones and which ones suck.
So we each made our individual list, and so we're just gonna go over each one by one, and say what we rank them as. So the first one is family, and the reason I say this is because when I looked up romance tropes, one of the things that came up was family. And I was like, what does this mean? And I was so concerned. And apparently it means, like, step-family, or, like sister-in-law, brother-in-law, whatever.
Cousins.
Yeah, even, like, cousins. And I was like, let's see what we each rank them.
Let's see.
I wonder.
Oh, no. I ranked family as 14 out of 15.
Me too.
And why did we do that?
Because we have one that we hate slightly more than incest.
Yeah, stay tuned to what we hate more than incest here on the Purr podcast. I just think, I don't know what to say about that trope, really. It's just kind of gross, and...
I mean, it's technically not... It's like, if it's step family, or like like you're related to someone who's married, it's like, even if it's not blood relations, like you still are connected to the family in some way, and like that means you know too much, guys. You've seen my toothbrush on the bathroom, like that's not okay. You're not allowed to be in love with me.
Yeah. It's just, yeah, it's
kind of icky.
It's weird. I think the problem is it's not a good situation you want to imagine yourself to be in, and that's the thing about books. It's like, yes, it does happen, but no one wants to be in that situation, so why would I want to be in that situation?
Great point. Okay, number 2 is fake relationship.
Okay.
And this is like where you have like, oh, we should date so that people are jealous of us, or like stuff like that.
Yeah, I need to get back at my ex, or I need to date to the prom, let's date.
Or it's like, I want people to think I'm an eligible wife, or whatever.
I gotta make them jealous. Okay, where'd you put it?
I put it as 13.
I put it as 11.
11?
Yeah, I ranked it kind of high. Like, I do hate it. Because here's the thing about fake relationship. It's so cheap. It's a cheap way to get characters to be together. And it's just like, oh, we're already dating, so then I realize how good you are as a boyfriend. And it's like, it's literally kind of, it's like, you know, people hate slow burns. Like, it's for people that hate slow burns and they don't like the journey of the people ending up together. So,
They
like,
just want them, they literally are doing romantic stuff off the bat. You're not
yeah.
waiting for, like, oh my gosh, we held hands. Like, it's literally, like, off the bat, you're immediately, like, there's no tension.
yeah, and I think I'm a sucker for tension, so.
Okay. We know you were friends with your boyfriend for, like, 17 years.
Since before I was out of the womb, I was friends with him.
Anyway.
Forbidden Love is the third one. So, okay, where did you put Forbidden Love?
I put it as 6, actually.
Oh, see, I have it at 5.
Okay, so ours wasn't too far.
They're pretty close.
This is like Romeo and Juliet, kind of like there's something keeping you apart. And the reason I put it higher up is it's like the thing keeping you apart is like external stuff versus like internal, like you don't like each other or like you don't want to date or like you're scared of relationships. It's like, oh, there's someone who doesn't want us together, so we can't date.
Yeah, it's like pretty much that, because it's not like anyone's the problem. Sometimes it is kind of, what are we doing? Forbidden Love. I think the only reason I put it like slightly lower is because of Romeo and Juliet and my like personal opinion about that story, because I hate how everyone thinks it's a love story when it's not. It's more of like a fable against like young love. And so like Forbidden Love, everyone like kind of, it's like super romanticized because of Romeo and Juliet. And I think people are like, oh, I want like my parents to hate the person I'm with or something. And it's like, I guess, yeah, and it's, like, it's really good at building, like, that tension that I like, so that's why it's kind of high up, but it's just also something weird about it where it's, like, I don't know, it's kind of also overdone.
Yeah,
like, because
it's overdone.
Like, because of Romeo and Juliet, because everyone thinks Romeo and Juliet's a love story, everyone's like, oh, now I want my characters to be, but they miss the point, and I talk about that in my article about how tropes, people become obsessed with the trope and miss the point of stories, aka, like, in the Hunger Games, or Romeo and Juliet, check out my article for more. What?
Anyway, number 4 is love triangle, because that's like when two people are in love with someone, or like this person's like The Summer I Turned Pretty is the love triangle, where it's like she's debating between which brother.
Yeah.
What'd you rank it as?
Oh my goodness, 8.
Where did I put it? Oh, I put it as 9.
You put it as 10.
Wait, I put it as 10, and that's because someone's getting hurt, especially in The Summer I Turned Pretty. You're literally brothers. You're telling me you're gonna date someone, break up with them, date their brother, and then get back together with the other one. Like, this is just going back and forth, and especially, it's usually, like, friends, or even if they're, like, enemies, or, like, they work together. Like, usually they have some sort of relationship, the two people that are competing, and it's, like, you're literally destroying their relationship, and then also, like, you can never, like, get back, like, you can never really be friends with the other person because you know that you chose them last.
Yeah, I think
someone's getting hurt.
Honestly,
everyone is.
You make such, like, a good point for that. Like, mine is up kind of, like, higher than I like, because, like, as we were discussing this, I feel like there's a threshold where, like, there's a large gap in between, like, the good ones and the bad ones, where, like, if I were to make a list, there'd be, like, a large chasm between, like, which ones I like, which ones I don't. So this one is still pretty low for me, even though it's at 8. And I think, like, I think of Twilight, because I'm a Twilight girly. And the thing is, like, so much was wrong with Twilight, because, like, obviously there's ship wars and stuff that come from, like, love triangles, which is kind of fun. Like, I do love being Team Jacob. But you make such a good point that someone's always hurt, and so it's, like, always...
And everyone's getting hurt, because, like, whoever has to choose can, like... They're always gonna feel guilty about not having a relationship with the other person, and they're also gonna, like, wonder, like, oh, did I pick the right person because it was such a close tie? And then the other, like... both other people are going to be, like, hate each other. And so everyone literally loses.
Yeah. And I think it's also kind of, like, a cheap way for people to show that, like, my girl's wanted by a bunch of guys. Because, like, because we always talk, love triangles are never triangles because the guys are never in love. So it's two guys pining over one girl. Sometimes it might be the other way around, like, two girls pining after a guy or something. But, like, usually it's not. And so it's kind of just, like, my character's so desirable and wanted and she's hot. So all the guys want her. And I'm like... oh my gosh, can we have, like, a quirky, ugly character? Please. Someone be ugly for once.
Okay, and then number 5, we have Unexpected Parenthood, where the mom finds out, like, the girl finds out she's pregnant or whatever, and they have to be parents.
I put that one at 12.
What did I put it as? I put it as 11.
Unexpected Parenthood is kind of weird to me because sometimes I, like, in books I've noticed, it's either a way to keep, like, a person's relationship interesting, where it's like, oh, I have nothing else to write about them, so we'll give them a kid, or something, and then it's also just, like, what was the one? Fake relationship, where it's like, oh, like, they didn't even want to be together, but now we have to be together because of this kid, and one, it's bad for the kid, like, no kid wants to be in a relationship where their parents were, like, had to get married because they were born, because that puts a lot of burden on the kid when they find out that I'm, like, my parents maybe don't actually want to be together, they're just together for me. You should never, like, I feel like you should never get married just because you're pregnant. Like, yeah, a full household is good, but if you don't like the person and you weren't planning on, like, even having a relationship with them, because this is used a lot of time to get people into a relationship. If you're planning on having a relationship with them, you should not be having a kid with them and getting married and stuff.
True.
But so it's, like, such a bad situation for everyone to be in, because no one wants to get married to someone they don't want to get married to, and it's so unrealistic. Like, no one, there's never been a good relationship where someone's like, oh, we're married, we have to get together, and one that just makes, like, the kid feel crappy, obviously, even if it turned out good, but it's, like, it's a bad situation for everyone to be in, and it's kind of the same as family. Like, why do I want to imagine myself in that situation? Like, why is that hot? Like, and that's not hot. That's a really hard situation for a family to be in. So, and it's also, like, I talk about this in my article, that some tropes portray such a bad view of relationships where it's, like, I don't know, you have to be together for the kid or something, or, and, like, that's teaching, like, younger kids to be like, oh, like, it's okay to, like, if my parents don't love each other because they had me. I don't know. It's romantic to get pregnant and then force him to marry you. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Okay. And then number 6 is lying. Like, this falls under, like, a lot of things. Primarily betting. Like, if you're like, oh, I'm gonna bet that I can date her, I bet that I can do this. But then also, I kind of count this as, like, if someone's like a celebrity, or like they're super rich, or like something they don't tell the person. Well, not that.
If there's just like a secret they kept from them, and then like in like the
climax, they're always like, you never loved me. It's like, I grew to love you, or blah 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 blah. I didn't tell you because I loved you, or whatever.
Yeah.
And I ranked this. What did you rank it as?
I put betting as 13.
I put it as 12.
13 out of 15, so it's like third to last. It's right above family, guys.
It's above family. That's the bare.
Betting/lying annoys me so much because it's like, one, especially the betting part, because it is the quintessential. It reminds me so much of like, oh, I'm gonna ask her out, but then I'm gonna reject her and be like, oh, haha, you thought you would fall for me, and that like is such like bullying. Like that triggers something in my brain that like is like, ew, that's a horrible person. Like only someone that like is so like horrible would do that, because it's so egotistical to be like, oh, I could be with them for this or something. And obviously like other secret things are like,
I feel like if you're keeping a secret, like, you're not a good person.
Yeah, it's just not a good relationship. Like, they shouldn't be keeping secrets. And I know the climax is like, oh, you kept a secret, but then they break up and then get back together. They never like solve the problem of the secret. And then it's
always like someone groveling for them back, like, please take me back, and they're like, fine, and then they're in love again. It's like,
and
what?
like, yeah, and it's just like all of these secrets, it's just like stupid, because it's like you don't really know the person, like the celebrity thing. Like you don't know them because they're keeping a big chunk of their life from you. So you're not falling in love with them, you're falling in love with like a character.
Number 7 is childhood. And McKinley can explain this better, because she kind of knows
childhood, I put this one on here because, like, I don't know, I read a book recently, or there's just been a lot of tropes where it's, like, either they've grown up together since childhood, so sometimes it's, like, friends to lovers, or, like, childhood best friends, but there's also the trope of childhood where it's, like, oh, they've known each other since childhood, and the boy, like, maybe he was her bully, so it's also kind of enemies to lovers. Like, it falls under a lot of different categories, but it's, like, the boy maybe was her bully or something, and then it was, like, no, he bullied you because he liked you, or he's, basically, it's whenever someone's liked someone since they were kids, like, one person or both people, and then they get together. And I put this on here because there's so much they do the trope where it's like, oh, he bullied you because he loved you. And so like mine, I put childhood at 9 because sometimes it isn't that bad. Like sometimes
I put it at 7.
Sometimes it's cute because it's like, oh, like they were either childhood best friends, or they like, there's so many different ways you can do it. But I specifically hate whenever it's like he bullied you because he loved you, because it's like, no, he was just a jerk little kid, and now you're excusing his actions because he's bullied you. And usually they don't just bully them when they're kids, they bully them their whole life, and then it becomes enemies to lovers. But I don't know. It's just like, it's something about like being like, no, he was a jerk to you as a kid, and we let his actions slide because he liked you. And
but he didn't really.
And that's not a good message to teach people.
Have you ever seen He's Not That Into You?
No.
I love that, because it literally talks about that trope and being like, oh, if he likes you, you'll know. Like, that's generally a truth. And, like, I think there are some exceptions, but are you really going to wait on an exception, is my question.
Yeah.
Like, if this person is truly the one, and you're willing to, like, wait for them to like you, or to, like, figure out if they, like, whatever. Like, if you really care about this person enough to where you're letting their actions slide, then that makes sense, I think, if you're aware of that. But if you're thinking, like, oh, this person just, like, is misunderstood, it's like, well, are you going to bet on that? Are you going to bet your relationship on that. The next one is long distance. So this is like if you like meet on a vacation or like you meet at a certain event or something and you have to like have long distance.
I put that at 8.
I put it as 4 because I feel like it isn't as bad as the other possibilities.
I'm just kind of neutral about it. Like, it's like, it either can work or it doesn't work. Like, that's the thing about long distance. It's gonna work out and you guys are gonna be in love and then you're gonna end up back together.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's like...
Or it's a waste of your time.
Or it's a waste of your time and it didn't work out and then you break up. Like,
yeah.
It's pretty realistic in that way.
I feel like long distance is common in college or high school.
Yeah.
And then when you get out of that age where you're kind of unable to move and you're kind of settled, it's kind of harder because you either have to make a huge life change or you have to be long distance like until you like literally get married.
Yeah.
The next one is forced proximity, which is the opposite.
I put that at 4, which is a strange...
I put it as 5.
Okay. Like,
I put it as 6.
I understand why people can hate it, because it's genuinely, like, the only one bed thing is the most annoying thing ever. But
then it's unrealistic.
It is unrealistic, but I also put it so high because it can be realistic. Like, sometimes it can be realistic. Like, I think it falls under the same category as, like, you work in the same job or something. Like, that's what I think of when like, a good forced proximity, that's how they do it. Because all of these, there's good and bad types of all of these tropes, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of going on the best case scenario, even though there's sometimes where I literally hate forced proximity. I'm like, oh, only one bed. Oh, no, what are we going to do? I'm like, oh, shut up. This is so dumb.
Oh, yeah, the one bad one, it could be a whole nother story.
Yeah, that's its own trope that we could put on here.
Yeah.
But, like... Sometimes it's just like, oh, they work together, and like office romance is like, we love Jim and Pam, that's cute, and it's like kind of realistic where it's not like, isn't like a fake relationship where that's like super forced proximity where you're forcing them into a relationship. True. It's like, oh, we're just around each other, which is how relationships happen. Like, people are always just around each other.
If you think about like most relationships is forced proximity.
Yeah.
Or like in some sense. So the next one we did is opposites attract.
Opposites attract.
I feel like that one's pretty high because if you think about, I was talking to like a lot of people about this, about how every couple has someone who drinks a ton of water and someone who doesn't drink any water, and then the opposite. And then there's also the
olive theory from like How I Met Your Mother, where it's like, oh, they like olives and they don't like olives. There's so many things like that.
Yeah, or like in every couple there's someone who sleeps terribly and someone who sleeps so well. It's pretty normal.
It's they balance each other out is why people like it, and that's pretty realistic in like real life. Like, you don't want someone that like accentuates all of your bad qualities. You want someone who has other bad qualities that you kind of even out. And I put that one at 2nd.
I put that one as 3. Okay. Those are pretty high.
Yeah, those are good ones. Those are good tropes. And there's a lot of different ways you can do it. They don't get generic. Because there's so many opposites. Because
there's like grumpy versus sunshine or like that kind of concept.
Yeah.
And then the next one is bodyguard or like white knight, where it's like a guy saving a girl. It's always a guy saving a girl. Yeah. It's never the opposite.
Like sometimes people try and twist it and be like, oh, she's a girl boss and saves the guy, but like it's so
always,
cheesy.
Trying to make a point.
It's so cheesy and tacky, and it's like But I put that one at 10 above fake relationship.
I put that one as 8 because I feel like literally it's such a codependent relationship, and I want to talk about this because I'm watching Night Agent, and I'm like, I think it's so unhealthy because you're literally like where they're like, oh, I can't leave without this person, or I can't be alone in the bathroom for 5 seconds without this person, and it's so codependent because you literally have a trauma bond. And there's, like, no foundation of, like, actual connection. It's just trauma. Okay, the next one is Second Chance. You want to talk about that?
Second Chance. Where did I put that? Second Chance is at 7, right above Love Triangle for me. And I just, like...
I put it as 9, which is also above Love Triangle, but for me.
But, yeah. So, Second Chance, for me, I think... It can be done pretty well. Like, let's say you got together in high school and then you, like, kind of grow up and you realize, like, oh, it didn't work out then, but it can be good. And it's, like, it's kind of like an idealized version of relationships, though, which is why I dislike it. Like, it's still not one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Because it's, like, idealized. Because, like, sometimes you're just... It's... Most of the time, if you break up, you shouldn't get back with them because there's a reason you broke up. Like, sometimes if you can write it where it's, like, cute and it's, like, oh, yeah, like, that person was a bad thing. But it's still, like, sometimes it's, like, oh, no, he cheated on me. But it's okay because he's older now. I'm like, once a cheater, always a cheater, girl. I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. And I think, like, the problem is, especially because if you're having a story like this, you don't see the long-term effects. Like, you only see the end where they're together and it's all perfect. And you don't see, like, 10 years later when they break up again.
Yeah. And I think those are just high for us because everything else kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Like it's like everything below we hate more, but it's still like we don't like it. The next one's enemies to lovers. Okay. Well, I know we put these at different spots, but I think this is a drastic change because the thing about this one is, like we said, everything else we kind of hate, and like maybe the top 5 or like 4. Maybe even 3. Like, the top 3 are the only ones we like, really. Yeah. And so, like, us changing up the top 3 is, like, really a difference of opinion here because there's only 3 good ones. So I put enemies to lovers at 3rd, and I said, or it could be very last for me, but I put it at 3rd.
See, I put it as 2nd, but we talked about how you either are enemies because there's, like, some sort of misunderstanding, or, like, actually this person's a genuinely bad person and you hate them for a valid reason.
It's the same thing for me with the childhood thing. Like, sometimes the enemies are so mean, like a bully, like bully romances, where they're, like, genuinely the worst person to them, and then they're like, oh, but they have a troubled past, or, like, that does not give them an excuse to, like, treat you, like, horribly. Like, you can sympathize with them and, like, be like, oh, I understand why they're doing that, but that doesn't mean you have to date them. Like, that doesn't mean that gives you a reason to fall in love with them. And so it's, like, and sometimes enemies to lovers, it's, like, cute, like, sometimes where it's like, oh no, they just disliked, like academic rivals, where it's like, oh, they didn't hate each other for any big reason, it's just that they were, like, jealous of each other or something, or like something minor, and then, like, they get together and they're like, oh, actually, like, because what is it, hate is kind of the opposite of love, so they're, like, I feel like we've talked about this, where they have, people like it because they have big emotions for each other the whole time.
It's like, there's, like, so much tension, and then also, there's the fact that, like, they see you at your worst. Like, they see your worst qualities and they still choose to love you. Like, that's kind of romantic.
Yeah.
If it's kind of
but it shouldn't be. I think it could be last if it's abusive. Because abuse is never okay. And
abuse is never sexy.
Yeah, don't sexualize abuse, guys. I talk about that in my article. Haunting Adeline. What's next? Do we have, like, 2 more?
Yeah, I think we have 2 more. We have friends to lovers, which... Okay, number one. Easily. Because I think it's so perfect. You have the tension. You also have, like, the foundation of, like, you like each other. Not like you like each other, but, like, you have a platonic appreciation for each other.
You understand each other.
And you have chemistry. And you have history. And you, like, already have a relationship, so you're building it off of something that already exists.
Yeah.
And so you're not just, like, meeting someone and dating them.
Yeah, and it's, like, the same thing with, like, enemies to lovers, is you have a relationship the whole time, you know, and, like, there is something driving you, but, like, there is tension because you're being driven apart because you're like, oh, do I want to ruin our friendship? But it's, like, it's so realistic. Everyone goes through it.
I feel like most relationships.
Yeah, this is how relationships should start.
And then the last trope.
Bingo. It's misunderstandings.
Which we love.
We love it. It's the best one.
I rated this as 15.
I put this as 15 below family. And let me explain, like, misunderstandings happen in relationships all the time, but this is
it's so cheap.
It is the cheapest way to cause tension because, okay, I have this thing called the second book breakup, and in any series, and when the, like, romantic partners get together in the first book, and it's a slow burn, or they just get together, and that's, like, the main meat of the plot, is them getting together. The second book, they will always have a breakup or, like, a tension caused by miscommunication because the author doesn't know how to write them in any other way besides, like, getting together or having tension or, like, being in love or not being in love. Like, they don't know how to have them in a stable relationship. So it's a cheap way to keep people invested and, like, basically do what you did with the first book a second time. And so, like, and it's always something dumb. It's like, you could have just talked to each other. Because it's not healthy.
So stupid.
It's like,
and it's so unhealthy.
It's so unhealthy not to talk to each other.
It's like the whole concept of, like, I remember, this is so common, is the one where it's like, oh, I have to do 2 things at once. Let me go back and forth between them. And it's always like, oh, I have a first date with someone, or I can hang out with this guy, like, and then it's like, oh, and then I have to do this thing for a friend or something. And it's like, literally, just tell them. Literally, just reschedule the date. Literally, just communicate. And it does not take that much work, I promise.
Yeah.
Just an ounce of communication, and you don't have this trope at all.
You know, because honestly, the family trope probably has more communication. Because your family and you talk to each other.
That's true.
Yeah, that's why it's better.
And now we have a special guest.
Oh, wait.
Friends to lovers, example number 1.
The reason friends to lovers are the best. I don't know if he's going to say anything. Elliot's walking this way. But he's
gonna
looking
step
for
on
us.
Oh my crap.
Where is he? This is going to be, like, monumental.
By the way, we're in my car right now because the conference center was full. So now we have special guest. Suspenseful drum roll. Say your name.
Do you want to be on it? No.
Oh,
he doesn't want to be on it. Never mind.
You'll never know who
no one's ever going to know
dating.
who I'm dating, guys. No one's... Just
anyway.
know. Guys, this is coming full circle. He's in the podcast, technically.
Whoa! We went from nemesis to enemies to
family.
Friends. We went from enemies to friends to lovers.
Now we're family. And I guess that'll be all.
Disclaimer.
Oh, disclaimer. No opinions on tropes or anything otherwise expressed by anyone in this video reflect the opinions of Lewiston High School or the Bengals Purr.
Now just pretend that was at the beginning.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Bye.